So the questions I've been asking or wanting to ask is, can you share the journey that led you to your current role in the tech/creator industry? And what were some pivotal moments or challenges you faced along the way?
Currently, I've just been like a year into travel, and I've been doing the same thing, just meeting different people, learning, trying to launch a bunch of my own businesses. And what led me here is I always had like a entrepreneurial spirit. Like I've been trying different types of content, different types of businesses since I was like 13. But, I don't know, never went like all into it. Didn't really care. Didn't have, the support or the education for it. So I ended up doing the traditional route. Went through university, got like the big tech job. But, a few years into it, I thought this is boring. I just like can't stand it anymore. It's like a great job. It's a good time, but I was just bored. I wasn't learning anything else. I didn't really feel like I was growing, and I just wanted to try something different. So I just, it was like one day, especially I like looked in the mirror and I just felt like I got uncomfortable. I was just like, damn, the past year, for the first year in my life, there's been no improvement, nothing. If anything, I was going downhill, just like 9 to 5, come back, chill out, watch some TV, have a bunch of drinks on the weekend. I just felt very complacent. So I'm like, all right, let me just go looking full on, pull the Band-Aid off and do something, try something, see if I can make it work for myself.
How do you cast off the expectations of others and judgment? Because you had a very well-paying job in a FANG company.
Yeah.
Very safe, secure. You could probably spend your whole career in FANG.
Easily, yeah.
How did you manage people saying, what are you doing? You're throwing this away. This is such a great opportunity.
It was interesting because I'd already at that point involved myself with a lot of like business community and a lot of people doing travel, entrepreneurship, that type of space. So I had a lot of support from that side, enough to where it overpowered any naysayers and stuff like that. So it was just nice having the support system and more people encouraging me, as opposed to, luckily, like I didn't have too many people who were just like, yo, this is a stupid idea. Like there were a couple, of course. And then, of course, with like immigrant family and stuff, I had to like explain it to my parents. But honestly, they were understanding it too. And what I said was, look, I'm going to do this for 2 years. I'll be fine. I'm like 24, or at the time, I was 24. And if I quit right now, 2 years, I'll live. Even if I like go all the way down to zero somehow in 2 years, I can just come back to big tech.
So one of the questions that I'm very interested to ask you about is, you've traveled extensively and lived in various different continents and countries right across the world. How have you been able to either create or find aspects of those cultures or identities and brought them into your Singaporean Chinese heritage?
Oh, that's a very big question. But the way I think about this is I will use traveling as a scaffold. I think that's important. A lot of people, one of the bucket list thing is I want to see the world, right? Okay, whatever that means. I'm not going to contest that. Let's take it as that. I know you're going to travel too, so I have to be very careful treading on ice. But I don't think there's any value in retail traveling or leisure traveling. There's nothing in it. What's the point? But I do believe in immersing yourself into the culture. And usually when you do that, it's not retail traveling.
What's one piece of advice you'd give to your 29-year-old self?
I guess for my 29-year-old self and for all the other 29-year-olds, I would say that we are probably, when you are at 26, 7, all the way until 35, it's like your prime productivity years, regardless of your choice. So what I mean by that is that you are going to make the most progress and improvements by not just by leaps and bounds, but by quantum leaps during those years. You want to stay focused. So by that, I don't mean just do one thing. You can do multiple things, but focus on your commitment on how you can get better. I think those are great. Because, so why 35? Because I think the moment people hit the more senior roles, so let's say if you're 9 to 5, 35 is a good cutoff year. You either make it or you don't. Put it as that. And then in terms of aggressive learning, I think when I was in my late 20s, I can still study at 1 a.m. I literally study for my professional exams. I can do it. Now, at 1, I'm probably just doing some scribbles, and then I was like, okay, that's always, I can do that on a flight back. So, I would say that be aggressive in your commitment. I think that's important, regardless of the field that you do. Don't waste those years, literally, because it will never come back.
What are skills that people undervalue while they're studying, but tend to overvalue when they're working, or the reverse? What are skills that people undervalue while they're studying, but then are becoming very valuable as they start working?
I see. I think the people side of things, it's important. Are we genuinely interested into the business? Are we having the right conversation with head of departments to be able to deep dive and ended up having HR conversations? So I think to be able to have conversation with the right mindset, not too many filters as well, because different culture, different business. I think it's a little bit undervalued. If we focus a little bit more on this, even at school actually, basic of communication and curiosity help us in this area. Yeah.
How do you think you find or create your sense of identity?
But first of all, I don't think we create. It's all about finding, the more you will be out of your comfort zone in terms of geography, in terms of social networks and all of that, the more you will see your true self in the mirror. And once you are able to find the 1 or 2 people that make you comfortable with it, then you start to really feel, okay, this is myself. You start to connect the dots as well, that you feel good. You don't know why, but you feel good. And then if you are open enough with yourself, you start to ask question, why I feel good, and then you start discovering yourself and finding your identity. But I believe you are born with an identity, and you just have to find it along the way.
You have a mission, and then you kind of just jump feet first into it. So you did that when you said, I'm going to do hospitality and travel the world, and then I'm going to go study in Denmark, and then I'm going to do this internship in Taiwan, and they said I'm going to move into tech. And then where do you think you've developed that strong internal sense of, okay, I want to do this, I'm going to now take a course of action to achieve that? Even if I'm wrong, I'm sure I'll figure it out.
I don't think that's something that someone teaches you. I think it's a personality trait that you either have or you don't have. I think it's very hard to be this kind of person if it doesn't come naturally to you, because you need to be continuously in an environment that is not familiar. And it's hard. I see it, now that I work with a lot of people. When I give them new tasks or things that are very different than what they used to do, it's very uncomfortable for them, most people. I used to believe that most people are like me, and it's completely normal than what I do. And I have come to realize that actually, there are many people like me, but not as many as I thought initially. So I do think that's a trait that I had. And it's funny because no one in my family has that trait. And I don't have a single relative that ever left the country or ever got a uni degree. They just had blue collar jobs all their life. So I really I've been thinking a lot about it and writing about it. And the one conclusion I'm reaching is that 1, it's personality trait, and 2, it's the books that you read. Yeah, reading books really helps because it opens this entirely different world. And, you realize that a lot of things are possible and other people have done them. So I do think that books helped me a lot. At least they kind of gave me the courage that I can do it. And then I had that drive either way to just try new things.
So from a young age, have you always found it easy just to embrace uncertainty and just be uncomfortable?
I don't think it gets harder with age. I don't think as you get older, you get a bit do I want to go through this once again? I've been through it I changed 7 countries so far in my life. And the good thing about going through something like this, especially changing the country, is that you can be a different person. No one will know. You're in a new country, new environment, you can be completely different. You can embrace a different personality if you wish to. And people would accept you because they
don't know any better. And in fact, often when I meet my old friends, I feel like I live many different lives, and they remember me one way, and the people here remember me in a different way. And it's interesting, but it does get harder. It does get harder as you get older. I don't know if I would continue doing that. Maybe more than the average person. Absolutely more than the average person. And that's why it's very important that if you sense that you have this kind of personality, that you find a career that aligns with it. Because you don't want to have a career where you feel like you're suffocated. You want a career that enables you to do more of that. And that's why I think startups are a good fit for me. Because in startups, you always need to learn new things. You always need to think from first principles. You always need to figure out new shit. Even if you stay within the same industry, there is always so much that you have to learn and that you need to reverse engineer. And because of that, I feel like, I don't know, like I'm scratching that itch, and it feels good.
We'll get back to the podcast in 1 minute, but I just wanted to let you know the sponsor of this week's episode, which is me. So I've got a free 5-day email course that will help anyone with a 9-to-5 or a beginner solopreneur start and scale their business to $1,000 per month. So you can find the link in the description in this podcast episode. Click on it. It's free to sign up. You'll get 5 emails from me teaching you and walking you through how to start your one-person business and make your first $1,000 per month recurring. So I'll see you there, and thank you for listening to this episode. What skill did you undervalue in your university days, but now found very valuable in your career and your work today?
100% it's around persuasion and communication. Like your ability to communicate and negotiate. Like there is no more essential skill. It's your number one. So whilst going to uni, and you think back to your uni days, and you sit down, you focus on if you're doing marketing or business or any of these things, the reality is there's tools around for all of those things, and you can learn most of them on your own anyway. But it's the ability to communicate. Probably one of the best courses I ever did was a 3-day course at SMU in Singapore, and it's called Positive Power and Influence. And that's been one of the better courses. I taught my daughter that as well. So at the time she was like 5 years old, and she still uses it to manipulate me. But it's positive power and influence. It's just how to have that conversation and not manipulate, but persuade and help someone see your particular perspective. Now, if you're talking with your boss, wherever, a lot of universities don't teach that. It's just, they'll focus on a lot of the technical details, but that communication ability is just absolutely fundamental.
What was it like to face the fear of quitting your job and the uncertainty of doing your own thing?
I was scared, definitely, because before I used to have this monthly income, and at the same time I was so empty, every day I didn't enjoy my job, and I knew that it was like good job. It was like I was good in it, but at the same time I wanted to have I wanted to have more freedom, and I wanted to have the feelings that I'm really excited about what I'm doing, and it's not like daily things that I don't care a lot. And probably these two feelings, I wanted more freedom, and I wasn't excited about my job in general. I wasn't fulfilled. So it's two things that helps me go, okay, I'm scared, but I really so bored of what's going on right now in my life. I'm ready to quit, and it was my main motivation to do something that I want.
Yeah. How did you handle the fear of judgment, potential rejection, and also expectations from family?
My mom was scared. She was like, what are you doing? Yeah. But I was just so stubborn in terms of I'm really don't see myself in 5-10 years in this way, because if I will continue working there, I will be empty and devastated. So I was just so confident that like, parents, I know you love me, like you care about me, but if you really want that I like be happy, I should do what I love, and it's definitely not like job career path. It's more about my business. So like it was, yeah, like I just explained them that I'm so unhappy, that I'm so miserable at that time. So they accepted.
Was there any skills that you learned in your 9-to-5 job that you took into your own business?
I had some skills. It was like more marketing related skills, but my main job, it was more about like logistics. So like basically when I quit my job, I didn't use that skills. I used my skills from previous side hustle. I tried to did different things during the job. So yeah, it was like I had some skills, but it wasn't like my main competence when I quit it. So when I quit it, I learned a lot of new skills.
One of the things that I've noticed with a few of the people that I've done these podcasts with is that they started from a process of just a vague something they were vaguely interested in, or they had some sort of passion in, or some sort of interest, and then they took one step, which was they knew they like writing, for instance, and they took another step of, okay, I also like fashion. Can I combine these two things? Yes, I can. And then from there, they just took the next step and the next step and the next step. How did you cultivate that mindset of just trial and error? Because for some people, that step of doing something and then realize you don't like it as much as you thought it would could feel like failure or judgment that they've not achieved what they've set out to do.
That's a good question. I think for me, honestly, it started off as pressure from my family. Like, okay, you're going to graduate now, you need to get a job. And I most definitely don't want to go into broadcasting. I need a job. I need to figure out what I can do. And I never quite saw myself in an office job. So writing seemed like it would be fun. But then like even within writing, like for the first couple of years of my career, it was an office job despite it being writing. Like, yes, I got, sent to a lot of events and like photo shoots, and I have to go interview people all the time. So this is refreshing to be on the other end. It still requires me to be in the office a lot. So I guess like at first it was pressure, and then it was just really, I think, this deep sense of I'm not happy. Like I can write about fashion, yes, and I thought I would enjoy it more because I used to enjoy fashion so much, but it doesn't bring me fulfillment.
Well, living across all those countries, how do you think that's impacted your sense of identity and belonging?
Oh, can I ask question also? Okay, because when I was thinking about this question that you put all together, belonging, identity, and connection, but how would you make the difference, and why do you think it's so all connected, the belonging, the identity? So what is your view about?
Well, for me, those three things, people have very varying levels of different definitions for them. So some people can talk about identity and belonging interchangeably and then use the sense of connection as a different word. So for me, I'm actually trying to figure this out myself. Has there three different questions, or are they three of the same words that people use to describe the same thing?
Okay, really interesting.
So for me, it's like, I feel like you have to have a sense of identity in order to have belonging and connection.
Okay.
So I derive belonging and connection from ultimately first a sense of identity.
Okay.
But some other people might say, actually, no, you need to have connection first, and then you derive your identity from that connection.
Okay, and what for you do you mean by belonging?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. With belonging, I think for me, I've kind of felt for a very long time, being born in Singapore and then growing up in Australia, that it was hard for me to belong in other place. So I was often too Asian to be considered Australian, and then too Australian to be considered Asian. So while I had these different identities, had these different connections to these two places, I never felt like I belonged particularly to one place.
Okay. Because now I understand better, because I've never actually think that I belong to any place. I never approached my identity with this concept of belonging. So I was reflecting on it, like, what does it mean to belong to? But to be honest, when I look back, I think when I was really young, when I was maybe 18, because I moved out from Reunion Island when I was 17 actually, so really young, to France mainland, I thought that I would begin this journey of like kind of like traveling and living different countries, and that somehow after this journey I will find a place. Like I will finally say, that's my place, that's where I belong to, that's my people, my house, my neighborhoods, and like my neighbors, like, yes, I am here. And this is where maybe I want to have a family, you know? But now that I'm 29, reaching my 30s, and I still don't have this desire, I didn't find my place. And so for me, belonging is not about a place, it's more about people, but not about like somehow a community that exists and you want to belong to, but it's just the community that you create for yourself and just the people that you loved. And my people, they are everywhere.
Do you think you create or find your identity?
I think it's, if I have to choose, I would say create, of course. But there is also this inner work that you have to do about finding kind of like, so I think first of all, like, we talked about it already a little bit, but the identity is not like just a state of being, it's something that is like always evolving. So I think when you question yourself like, oh, who I am, I think it's more like you are trying to aim to identify what is this point of convergence of who you are and who you want to create. And it's really here that you operate this intersection. It's really important to understand that. For me, I mean, that's my takeaway, you know? That's my own opinion. But it's really important to have this in mind, because then you have this work that you have to do, and it's like really hard work that I did during my career break. You have to ask you the questions and the difficult ones. You have to go back maybe in your childhood, what happened, what was your aspiration when you were young, but a lot. And because I did some studies in sociology, we have been conditioned a lot by society, but by our parents' expectations. And we need to be aware of that, just to create self-awareness. And that is like asking you questions. That's all. Trying to answer. It's okay if you don't find the right answer, because maybe there is no right answer. It's an answer, and then you keep moving. And then you have this other path that is like really to try to understand who you want to be. And that's the most creative part. It's like who do you want to create, and to allow yourself really like not to have boundaries, but also like really to take this time, particularly when we are creators, we have so many inspirational figures that we have in mind, but it's really important just to silence the other voices to hear yours. So that's really important for me. And it's a lot about inner work also. I would rather, when I came to Bali and I did all this journey about figuring out who I was and actually who I want to create, I didn't want to travel that much, like maybe the opposite of you. I just wanted to do like this inner introspection.
And you mentioned that Bali is the entrepreneur's dream. What things in Bali, or what does Bali provide that you think makes it the paradise for entrepreneurs?
For a few reasons, because I have done a lot of travel. I've done about over 20 countries, and I still say Bali for me is my favorite. For a few reasons. The community, so there are a lot of people that are digital nomads here. They're really easy to find. But also Bali is catered for work in, as in there's every cafe you go to almost, there will be free Wi-Fi and PowerPoints, which is really important for a digital nomad. Like even, for example, I can go to a restaurant in the jungle and sit by a pool and I'll ask the staff and they'll be like, yeah, there's a PowerPoint that you can get out of the grass. Like that. Like there's always PowerPoints. There's no, and that for me is a gold mine, because in other countries it's really hard to find PowerPoints. So that to me is like a massive tick. But then also, other than that, it's of course low cost of living and just things that take up time in an average human's day, like laundry, for example. You can outsource that pretty quickly and easily, which is a godsend. And then besides that, Bali is a favorite personally for me because I like driving motorbikes. And Bali to me is the best place to do that. I've driven in a few countries and nothing tops Bali for me riding. So I like the chaos of Bali, even though for some people they would say that's a reason I wouldn't drive a motorbike here. But
And going back to your startup journey, so you got interested in about 19 years old? 19, 20, and you're 29 now. So over the last 10 years, you've had failures, you've had startup failures, you've had 9-to-5 jobs. What's something that you valued 10 years ago in your startup journey that no longer value as much today?
something I thought was important to be cool when I was younger. That's an interesting question. I think for me, when I was younger and would have the 9-to-5 jobs, yes, I knew getting the skills from those jobs is important. And I always knew inevitably I was going to run a business, or I was running a business at the time. So I would do a few things like steal policies and things like that from companies and go, oh, that's a nice way of managing your staff, and then like downloading that. So those are few. I did a bunch of that, but I would say the biggest thing is probably I did not used to value as much the people that I met in those roles, and that I thought my mindset was get in there, smash out my 9-to-5, make sure I do an average performance. I could always do better, but I wanted to save a lot of that mental willpower for my business. And sometimes people who are trying to do a business on the side, or who want to do a business, who have an idea and want to start it, sometimes I think people can really struggle to separate their identity from their job. But I found that very easy, and that I knew I personally don't care about my performance in this job. It's just a means to an end. So I could easily detach from it and do a low performance, but then in doing so, I'd also detach from the people. I didn't think there was any value in actually, networking or putting time in to get to know my colleagues. Whereas now I know the value of networking, and people have heard this 100 times, but people you meet, you never know when, a use for them pops up. Not to say you should just use people, but you never know what people you end up collaborating with later. So those relationships, any relationships that you can foster, that are actually useful. And I definitely had periods where I'm looking for a job, for example, and someone that I met in a previous company, I need to make some money for my startup, goes, oh, hey, I know you were good at this. There's this opportunity. So now I know the value of actually investing in relationships.
Hello, friends, and thank you again for listening to this week's episode of the podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard and got value from the podcast, I would love for you to share it with a friend who also wants to start, grow, and scale their solopreneur business, or on their own one-person business journey. And if you could like and subscribe, that would be amazing. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye.